and gentlemen, once again, it is live and loud with the Lord, and we have a super special talented guest. A super special talented guest. If I can like that, that would be something for him. Mr. Eric Sanders, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, indeed. Welcome. Thank you very much for being here. I really appreciate it. Been wanting to get you on one of the podcasts for a while, man, just to talk shop about what you do, because you're out there handling your business, playing the drums and everything. But before we get into all of that, my first question to everybody is, let the people know where you are from.
Well, before that, even, I want to thank you for having me on here and tell you how much I appreciate you thinking of me and working with me on my crazy schedule to get on your show here. So yeah, man, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm from Queens, man. I'm from New York City.
New York City.
Yeah. Well, not city proper, but New York City. I'm from Queens. I grew up right by JFK Airport.
Okay.
Yeah, first on the Queens side and then on the Long Island side. But the Long Island side is like the very first town in. Just like it's like the proverbial crossing of the tracks.
Okay, love New York,
man,
New York.
Yeah, that's right, man. My parents are still right by JFK. My brother is in like kind of the heart of Queens.
Okay, Queens. Oh, when I was younger, I'm from Charleston, South Carolina, but being that all of the hip hop guys and rap guys, we all wanted to be from New York because New York was just the greatest place to be. And New York is one of the few places that I've been that when I got there, it exceeded my expectations. I was just
nice.
I was like, wow, it's everything that they said it was,
and more.
New York is great. So what is the
awesome.
greatest thing, in your opinion, about New York?
Oh, am I allowed to just say the bagels?
Well, they always say it's the water. The water makes the bagels great,
exactly.
Right?
Exactly. Yeah, there are places down here in Atlanta that say, "Oh, we bring in the water from New York," but yeah, the bagels and the pizza, it's because of the water. Well, so no, but to answer your question seriously, well, bagels, still serious. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I much prefer living down here in Atlanta. But growing up in New York and so close to New York City, Queens is part of the city, Long Island isn't, but Queens is on Long Island, it's all gets convoluted. Right? Being able to go into the city, which was just a few miles away, just a train ride away, just a short drive with my parents, I was able to see a lot of incredible music, but better yet, I was able to study with a lot of incredible drummers and musicians that may have even just been like adjunct professors or guests at a place where you could just go and take like a lesson or 3 lessons, and then they're out of town or something. Mm-hmm. So I think that was a really good benefit of growing up there. And, like you said, you were growing up down in the deep South, that, you heard about New York and you thought about New York and you wanted to go up there. And, I was right there to check out all that stuff. I knew what it was like. I'm glad that I'm from there and I'm comfortable there. I'm also glad I don't live there. And I don't live there as an adult and I don't live there as a professional.
Right.
I miss my family, desperately. And still some old dear friends, but it's not for me, on a personal or professional level, to live there, which is, but I'm glad I grew up there.
Hey, listen, that's love. That's love. So now I got a special thing for you. So, I did a little digging and, looked at a few things. So when I say this, I want to see what you say. You should say something, or maybe you'll say something. So when I say we are, what do you say?
Penn State.
This guy is on it.
Let's go.
Awesome. That is really amazing. That is great. I didn't know whether it was gonna happen. Listen, man. Penn State, the Nittany Lions, even back with Joe Paterno when I was younger, the mascot or the picture of that lion, it was just so simple and so unbelievable. I loved it. Man, listen, the uniforms were just more plain and It was
playing.
just a really
Yep.
great look. So you saying that is awesome, man. That was awesome.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's fantastic. Now you digging that up is fantastic. So I'm not a football guy at all. I'm a
Uh-huh.
baseball fan. But so what they would do at Beaver Stadium, which holds like 100,000 people, is half of the stadium would chant "We Are," and the other half would chant back Penn State. But then everybody would start chanting "We want the Lion, we want the Lion," and the mascot you were talking about would go up the different sections of the stadium and everything.
Right. Amazing. I mean, it had to be a great time there, man. With that, I don't know. It just seems like the climate there, football, and just like you said, you might not have been a football person, but there's a lot going on up there. So what kind of things were you doing? Were you just still into music then, or
Um, yeah, 100%. So, oh, and am I allowed to give like long answers or
Of
just sort of
course.
like short
I
canned
want listen.
answers?
Well, I want
Okay,
it to be as interesting as it can be, and I want your great. Yes, indeed. Speak. Don't worry.
per- perfect. Thank you, man. Um, so Penn State it was kind of like prison for me. I did not have fun in college, man. I was a classical music major. Basically lived in a windowless practice room that was
Wow.
like really small, and it was classical music. Um, Without exaggeration, about 17 to 20 hours a day.
Wow.
Um, I did not have fun. I didn't party. I didn't have girlfriends. Maybe a little bit towards the very end, kind of had things, in
Right.
check a bit.
Hmm.
But no, I know it's not going to sound good here, but I mean, I barely had fun in school. It was all serious classical music for me. But I knew that as soon as I graduated,
Right.
all the kids that were my age that were having a blast,
Hmm.
they were going to be, pushing papers on a desk and miserable for the rest of their lives.
Right.
And I knew I was going to be playing the drums
Right.
for the
Doing
rest
your
of my
thing.
life,
Right.
having a blast. So
Right.
I was like, these are my formative years. Let me take care of this stuff now when I'm here and supposed to,
Right.
and then I'll go have my fun after. Um, so yeah, like I'm really not the person to ask so much about it.
No, that's
I try,
love, but
I
that's your experience.
yeah, I tried to go early on, like to a football game, even though I was a baseball guy.
Mhm.
And man, it was, you know, people were making fun of me because I had long hair. Uh, they started throwing like marshmallows at me. Get it caught in my hair. I have to leave the game.
Wow.
Um, a couple of years later, I was playing in jazz combos
Hmm.
before the games.
Hmm.
So I was playing with like the TAs and like the teachers, the jazz professors there,
Gotcha.
and I would get hazed. They'd make me like I mean we're talking like November in central
Oh.
Pennsylvania. It's freezing. They would drive their saxophone over to the stadium and they would make me like carry and walk the drum set from the music building to the stadium back and forth a million trips. Uh, and then I would set up, and we're set up outside, and there's like the people are in heated tents, but my hands are freezing. And I'm like playing jazz with like the professor, so I'm like terrified because I'm still a kid. And yeah, and then the generator was like louder than the drums, for the people getting the heat. And I would have to play for the games. Then the games would start. I'd have to get the gear back to the music building, and then what I would say is I'd be like, what's amazing? This massive campus
Hmm.
that has two freaking 18-hole golf courses, its
Wow.
own post office and zip code
Mm.
is completely empty.
Mm.
The
Right.
downtown area and like the CD stores and like my favorite restaurants, it's completely empty because everybody is at the game. I'm going to walk around and enjoy my campus. I'm going to go downtown and I get to like eat, like, not be bothered and
Right.
like have a relaxing meal. Going to go to the CD store, and check out some music. And then when everybody comes back out and they're going to go party, my ass is going right back to the music building and I'll go to practice.
Yeah, well, but listen though, you took that negative and made it a positive though, and that's the beautiful thing. And I'm telling you, that's more interesting. There's probably more people that have gone through that than you probably believe. That have gone through those
Oh, yeah,
same kind
yeah.
of things. So
Oh,
I just
absolutely
want to
no.
know if you remember any of the people that did the marshmallow thing, so we can go and just slap some people around.
Yeah.
they, pro-
Uh,
they they see you now, and it's kind of like Gary V. I don't know if you know Gary V. He's a inspirational person. He does a lot of
Oh,
stuff
okay.
online and stuff like that. But he's got a business, a gigantic business, and he spoke about that. You know, working at his father's wine store. He did all the other stuff while everybody was out there partying and having a good time, and now
Yeah.
he's there. You know, so he
Nice.
said those things. So when you speak about that, but I hear you. I hear you. I can't say I was out there running the street either. You know, I was around some people that ran the street, but you know, I'm like one of the. I don't drink. I don't smoke. I'm just I'm just a cornball. I'm just me. You know.
Yeah, I was never a party guy
Right.
at all. I've never done drugs. I've never even had coffee. But
Really.
yeah, really, yeah, I've never done drugs. Um, I love craft beer. I love good craft beer as long as
Hmm.
it's not hoppy. I don't understand this whole hop
Right.
craze, but for me, man, it's like it's a reward. So
Hmm.
like I've never had a beer and played a gig.
Wow.
I'm not gonna have a beer and like drive. I'm not gonna like drink if I have to like teach the next day or have an important
Hmm.
concert to play or a recording session,
Yes.
or I have like for me, I have to get all my practicing done. I
Hmm.
have to get all my composing done. It was like the same thing with you. Like, man, I don't know what time I can do it because I want to have a free mind.
Right.
And so like, so I kind of plan it out. And for me, it's like a reward. So it
Hmm.
doesn't happen very often. And it's just kind of, yeah, like I said, it's a reward. Um, but yeah, in school it was classical music, and I had to work so hard because I didn't want to be there. I didn't want to be studying that. I wanted to be back home. I wanted to be in New York City, becoming a rock star.
Right.
And
Indeed.
my mom was like, I was 17. I'm going to college. My mom was like, well, good luck. And I was like, what do you mean good luck? She was like, so you're 17. You're going to move to New York City,
Wow.
and you're going to be a rock star. Um, good luck. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? She's like, well, get a job, find a place for your drums, all these things. So like, she was like, you have to go to school.
Right.
So I was like, awesome. PIT, Percussion Institute of Technology out in LA. And
Right.
she was like, all right, two things about that. First of all, you're so shy, you can't even go sleep at your friend's house 5 doors down without coming home by midnight. You think you're going to go 3,000 miles from New York to LA by yourself at 17 and
Wow.
be okay? And the other thing was, she didn't want me to go to a school like that. She wanted me to get a quote unquote real education, beyond just music.
Right.
And so she said, hey, look, if you want to go out there and you get in,
Hmm.
I'm not stopping,
Right.
but you're going to pay for everything. And I was like, how? I'm just a kid. She was like,
Hmm.
get a job. I'm
Right.
like, how can I work? I'm going to need to practice. Go to a real school.
Wow.
So she was like, you go to a real school, I will take care of everything and you will
Wow.
be prepared to practice. So that was kind of I kept having it. It wasn't even compromises. I just had to flat out give in all the time. And so when it became, all right, you're going to go to classical school,
Hmm.
uh, the first hurdle was, well, I don't even play any of these instruments. None of them are drum set.
Right.
Like I play the drum set, I play the snare drum,
Hmm.
but I don't know what this big giant xylophone is, the marimba. I don't play timpani. I can't read pitched music. I could read rhythms. All of these things. How am I going to get in? How am I going to play these instruments? I don't
Right.
even want to.
Yeah.
So I had to go through all of that, and then of course I just wanted a degree in performance because I'm a performer. I just want to play.
Got you.
And she said, nope, you're going to have to get a degree in music education. And I was like, oh, here we go again. And everybody ganged up on me, man. My band directors, my teachers, because I've got a bad wing. I've got a busted shoulder.
Okay.
And I had not had major shoulder surgery at that time just
Hmm.
yet. So it was, you have to have the degree in music education for something to fall back on
Got
in
you.
case you physically are unable to
Makes
be
sense.
like a
Okay.
touring drum set artist. So I kept giving in and giving in. But here's something else that leads to why I didn't go out much was I was so stubborn that I said, if I have to learn all these instruments and get the degree in music education,
Hmm.
I'm also going to get a degree in performance, and percussion performance,
Right.
because I don't want to just go out and teach, which I started teaching when I was 13, but I
Wow.
didn't want to be a band director. I knew I never wanted to be, and that's what I was going to be trained to be and get a degree in.
Hmm.
But I was like, I want to play. there are performance things that an education major does not get because they're an education major.
Right.
I want those. So I essentially did 2 5-year degrees in 4 years because I'm a crazy person. and and I wanted to make my parents proud, and I knew
Of
my
course.
family was doing a lot to get me through, to get me to that school and through that school. So I just was bear down and do it. But I was miserable, and I talked to my mom every day from school.
Right.
I was I was truly very sad. I didn't enjoy it, and
Wow.
I tried to come home a bunch of times, and it finally got to a point where my mom knew it so deeply that she said, "Ari, you know what? You've proven everything you need to. You've done all of this stuff there, and I know I set you on that, course. But I can't do this to you anymore."
Right.
So after 2 years, which is where you get all of like your core stuff, like your piano, your theory, your ear training, your sightseeing, all this stuff. She said, "You've got that under your belt and some regular gen ed classes. You can leave. After 2 years, half done, you can leave. You could transfer to a different kind of school. You could just come home. You could go to New York City and try to be a rock star. Like,
right.
You're good to go." And at that point, I just said, "Ma, I can't. I have to stay."
Got to finish it out.
And yeah, she said, "Why?" And I threw her for a loop. I said, "Well, I fell in love." And she was like, "What? What? You did? You've been with a girl?" Like, "Oh my God, I thought you were just in a practice room." And I said, "No, that's what it is. I fell in love with the marimba. The big giant xylophone,
right.
4-mallet concert marimba." So I was like, at that point, let me just finish it out and get all this taken care of. And by the time I graduate with these couple of degrees, I'm not even going to be 21 and a half yet. So let me go ahead and just finish this out and then go do my thing. And, my parents are just so incredibly supportive, and you need that as a drummer and as a musician.
You definitely do.
Everybody needs that no matter what.
Yeah, that's one thing that Gary Gary V spoke about that. He said that to have your parents support you, he said, because so many times your parents put their fears on you, the things you want to do. It's like, man, you got to go out there and live your life, man. And so everybody's path is not the same. So
yeah, it's true.
I feel you. I feel you. So next question.
Oh, but before you do that, to finish up that last thing there, I've had so many adult students that come to me that say, "I've wanted to play the drums since I'm a little kid, and my parents disallowed it. They would not let me. They didn't want the noise or the this, that, and the other."
Right.
And they're finally like a grown adult, and they're at a point in their life where they could go, do what they want.
Right.
And it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I really
that they could do that.
I really, for the most of my children, there's certain things when they were smaller. Of course, you want them to do this and do that. I always wanted them to be great in school because I wasn't great in school because I had different circumstances. But my wife and I, we really were hard on them about especially in high school. Doing your homework before you go out and play and enjoy yourself. Make sure you have all these things handled. And all three of my children graduated from college. One is graduated from medical school. The other one is getting her doctorate right now. And her twin brother, my son, he's doing music and stuff. And he's all I tell them is enjoy your life. Enjoy whatever you want to do, and I'm going to support you at whatever you want to do. Now, some things I might not like, but you're grown now. Enjoy yourself. Enjoy yourself.
That's awesome. I had to check on the kid too. She's in high school and she's got a test tomorrow. So
right.
Yeah.
Right. No, I understand
right
100%.
Yeah.
So, what?
Yes, sir.
What got you to Atlanta, or who got you to Atlanta?
Okay, great question. And it ties into the last one because I was at Penn State. But there's a musician, an older guy. He's no longer with us now, but he was kind of legendary in circles from here in Atlanta, named Colonel Bruce Hampton. Colonel Bruce Hampton. In the 60s, he's on a couple of Zappa albums as a guest. And he had a band then called the Hampton Grease Band, like 1970. They were on Columbia Records.
Okay.
Their debut was even like a double album.
Mhm.
And then he had several bands through the 80s and really started gaining some more notoriety with a group in the early 90s called the Aquarium Rescue Unit, with like Oteil Burbridge on bass, who's now with the Grateful Dead,
Okay.
and was with the Allman Brothers, and Jimmy Herring on guitar, who is with Widespread Panic. And that band got a lot of notoriety. And I was, in fact, at the time, he was my biggest musical inspiration.
Got you.
And I was studying his music a lot. And I was living at Penn State. It's funny because I graduated Penn State. I went back to New York City, and things had changed so much that I left New York City and went back to Penn State. Yeah, so there's a lot in there, but I don't want to jump too much. So I was back at Penn State, and Colonel Bruce came through town with his new trio, and I had already had their new album. It had just dropped, and I already had it. And he was playing a club, and it was a very small crowd. It was like an off time on an off night, and the guy running sound happened to be the sound guy and manager of my band at the time. So I said, "Hey, can you maybe introduce me to the Colonel at the end of the night if if it works out?"
Right.
And it did, and we hit it off. And he was actually looking for a new drummer.
Really?
And yeah, at the time he was looking for a new drummer, and he said, "Well, you know more about my music than I do, so who do you think should be my next drummer?" And I was just, young and dumb, and I was like, "Me?" Like earlier that day, my band at the time, like we were going to be going on hiatus. In fact, I was about to be moving back to New York. I had a job lined up teaching at Long Island Drum Center. I had a couple of gigs in the city, and of course a place to live. So I was on my way back. So I was just like, I'll play drums.
Right.
And he was like, "You're too young. You don't have any road experience." Because I was 22 at the time. And I said, Bruce, that's a catch-22. If nobody's going to hire me, how can I have any road experience?
Right.
It's got to start somewhere. And so he set up an audition for me the very next afternoon before he left town. He sent me home. He said, "Go learn the new album." And the keyboard player, who was a badass, who was like left-hand bass and keyboards and wrote the music and everything, he said, "You're going to get together with him during lunchtime tomorrow at your practice space where your band is, and we'll see what happens."
Right.
So I auditioned for the guy the next day, and he reported back to the Colonel.
The Colonel.
And yep, and the Colonel called me up, Colonel Bruce Hampton, and he said, he's got this, he's from Atlanta. He's got this old Southern slow drawl. And he goes, boy, pack up your drums, move to Atlanta next Tuesday.
Awesome.
So I did. I moved to Atlanta the following Tuesday.
Wow.
And that was 25 and a half years ago.
Wow.
I never left, and just set me on the path of playing gigs.
Amazing.
So yeah, I'm still here, because of the Colonel.
The Colonel.
Yeah. So that's what brought me down here, man.
Oh, okay. So I mean, I guess we kind of talked about it already. So I was going to say, talk about, you're such an amazing drummer, and out of all the instruments, what was it about the drums that screamed your name?
Oh, okay. So check this out. I grew up with two guitar players. My dad is like a folk musician. He's like a house folk musician.
Okay.
Basically like Bob Dylan. He plays like a Martin D28 acoustic guitar. He's got like the necklace for the harmonica. He plays piano and like banjo with finger picking.
Yeah.
And so he's just like a house musician. I grew up listening to like Beatles and Bob Dylan with that. And my older brother is like an awesome like shred guitar player, like electric shred guitar player kind of thing. So I guess they needed someone to keep the beat, and so that was me. And when I was a little boy living in Queens, we had an apartment in Queens, one of my dad's friends, for my birthday, gave me a pair of drumsticks. And I don't remember how old I was. So
Right.
let's say it was either probably 5, 6, or 7.
Hmm.
Let's go with 6,
Okay.
but I'm not sure. I remember they were Regal tip 5As with nylon tips. And I don't have one of those stories where, oh, I was beating on everything on the couch in my mom's Tupperware. If I beat on any kind of furniture or a kitchenware, my mom would have chopped my
Didn't
hands
beat
off.
on you.
Yeah. So my mom being a school teacher, what she did was or I don't know if she did it or I did it, but we set hard covered books in a semicircle
Hmm.
on the floor, and I would just sit there and go back and forth and hit on the books. And my dad and brother would play guitar, and I would just play on the
Awesome.
books.
Oh,
So that's how it
listen,
started.
that's awesome.
Yeah,
That's
but
awesome.
In Queens, there was no instruction or anything, or
Uh-huh.
no music in school or anything like that. And
Right.
that was one of the reasons we moved out, and only about 20 minutes away or so, but to the island, where I would be able to be in a public school that had like school band
Right. Arts. Yeah.
and a
Yeah.
place where I could take lessons. Yeah, stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, I think I feel like the instrument chose me, but I think it was, there were already 2 guitar players. My dad's friend gave me a pair of drumsticks for my birthday, and that was it.
Hey, hurrah and bravo to your dad's friends who gave you the sticks. And
Right? Oh man,
for mom setting up the books for you to do your thing. That's awesome, man. That's
yeah,
awesome. That really is.
still in touch
Okay.
with
So, next
still,
question.
yeah.
Do you have a specific style of playing that is all your own, or have you pulled different elements from great drummers of the past and of today?
Oh well, definitely the latter. I think that's just about everybody, except maybe the earliest pioneers
Hmm.
that truly were doing something that nobody's ever done before.
Right.
I certainly hope I have my own style. I mean, I
Hmm.
think I have my own voice and style and sound, especially with like the quirkiness and all the odd meter and stuff like that. The way the kinds of heads I use and and certain sounds and things.
Hmm.
Um, but I mean, approach wise and vocabulary, it's an amalgamation of so many different players of the past and of today,
Okay.
that influence me. I'm always a sponge for all of that, and growing up, when I would find a drummer that like I loved,
Hmm.
I made sure to study who he loved or she
Okay.
loved from
Right.
back in the day, and then go back and check them out. Even if maybe it's getting so old where the production isn't that good, or
Hmm.
I don't fully understand the vocabulary or like the music as much. I want to know what influenced the guys I was liking
Right.
that got them to that point, and then maybe learn some of that and incorporate it in what I was pulling from what my guys were
That's
liking
your
from it.
guy. Right.
Yeah, and keep adding and adding and adding, and then, like, it's just unbelievable what the modern guys are doing and everything. I would see students come in and also doing stuff like you never would have ever thought of,
Hmm.
or that you didn't think were possible,
Right.
and, yeah, you have to pick and choose, though, of, none of it's easy,
Hmm.
and it all takes time, so you kinda have to pick and choose of from, well, what do I need to take from here to express myself through the vehicle that is my instrument
Right.
the way I want to express myself? Am I going to need that? And if you do, then it's worth exploring and figuring out the techniques and the tempos and the sound, and to add it to your vocabulary.
Yeah.
Uh,
Good. I'm
but
sorry.
yeah, no, definitely influenced by a lot of drummers
And
and a
just to
lot
add
of
on to
different
that,
drummers and different styles.
the reason why I asked that question is that I always remember, and I asked Mike Martin the same thing. Um, Quincy Jones, I remember watching Chuck D from Public Enemy. He was interviewing him, and he asked Quincy something about that. Quincy Jones said, "Take 10 of your favorite artists, take something from each of them, and once you've taken one thing from each of them, you'll have your own style. It'll be your own distinct thing. It won't be like anybody else's." And I always ask musicians that question, like, hey, how do you feel about this? And drumming, watching, Frank from Stuck Mojo and Fozzy, watching Frank do his thing, and watching Steve Underwood and watching Rodney Bobo do their thing. They were different guys, this Jason Moore guy I know also. And then my dude Jeremy that plays for Chase Rice, You know Chase Rice, the country singer. Well,
I'm not familiar.
well, Jeremy plays for him, and Jeremy played for Prince for a little bit also.
Oh
When
wow.
the other guy that was from South Carolina played for Prince, and he was sick for a moment, and he's
Is that
passed away
John
also.
Blackwell?
He and Prince, but Jeremy
John
played for
Blackwell?
him, and so Jeremy's amazing. You know, and
Oh
it's,
sure. Were you
oh,
talking about John Blackwell?
oh, you're right, John Blackwell. So he went to Keenan here
Yeah.
Keenan here in South Carolina and Columbia. And so Jeremy
Wow.
went to Keenan also. So Jeremy was like band director also. So when John got sick at one time or something went on where had to be off tour, he brought Jeremy in for a stint with Prince. And
Wow.
and you know, it's Prince Rogers Nelson. So I've always told everybody that Prince and I are related in my head. He's a
Perfect. I
Nelson.
love it.
That's all I know.
Yes, that's perfect. Yeah, that's good enough for
so,
me.
so
That's like blood.
my kids forever, they were just like, we're related to Prince. I said, yes, you are.
Absolutely.
So it's
No
all love. But
doubt.
yeah, so you know, the drumming thing and being on stage and watching them play, it was just amazing. You just, you know, just like with guitars and everything, you just get a better understanding and feel for what's going on and how much how important a drummer is to everything that's going on. The drummer keeps that tempo, keeps you in line with things. So that's amazing. Great answer, man. Great answer.
Yeah, and it
Okay.
provides the feel. Provides the feel, gives the pulse, and yeah, I dig Quincy's quote on that. Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. So name one drummer from the past and one from today that just gets you geeked up. That's just like, I love these guys.
Oh man, that's a great question. I have so many answers. How far in the past am I going to go?
However, it's on
Uh,
you. It's your world.
you know, uh, well, I'll give two that'll start from like early on in childhood.
Okay.
Okay, one was Billy Cobham, and the other is Neil Peart.
Okay.
Um, Billy Cobham, um, he really came to fame with the Mahavishnu Orchestra, John McLaughlin, in
Hmm.
1970. But he was performing before that and recording Miles Davis, James Brown, Horace Silver in the '60s. And during quarantine here, I actually had the opportunity to interview him not
Oh.
once but twice.
Mm.
And yeah, he's just so legendary and incredible. And that was just a really amazing experience. And Neil Peart was the drummer for Rush.
Rush. Oh, yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so
Yeah, he's
those were two
amazing,
very
definitely.
early. Yeah, those were two very early influences, and Neil really influenced me and inspired me to become a lyricist
Gotcha.
and a writer because he
Right.
wrote most of the lyrics.
He did.
So
That's
those two
right.
guys from the past, and you know, for modern guys, I don't have a name that's jumping out at me that I
Okay.
love, but my two favorite drummers that I love listening to right now
Uh-huh.
are not young guys.
Okay.
Um, but they are very present right now. And one of them is a jazz cat named Jerry Gibbs,
Hmm.
and he's in Queens.
Okay.
His father was a legendary vibraphone player and big band leader. And the other guy is from Turkey. His name is Volkan Oktem. And oh my God, he is absolutely unreal. So those two guys are like for me right now, like
Gotcha.
those are the two guys that are really influencing and inspiring me, though they're not young.
Gotcha.
Um, I guess I should mention though, there's this like 18 or 19-year-old kid from I think Long Island or something. His name is Grayson Necrotman, and he's
Hmm.
essentially the second coming of Buddy Rich.
Okay.
And
Oh,
I know
really?
that would sound blasphemous, but the kid might even be better already, and he's not even
Hey.
20. It's absolutely insane. Um, yeah, I can't even watch all of his videos because it's like it's too much.
Right.
It's too much, and it's just like wow. But that kid has it going on.
And you know, there's got to be guys that come like that. You're going to have those things. So no,
Oh
oh no,
yeah,
hey, that's love. All right, this is a good one right here.
yes sir.
Let's talk about the
Bring it
Yeti
on.
Trio. First of
Mm.
all, that's a very interesting name.
Wow, thank you.
How did the name come about? And what genre of
Oh,
music do you guys play?
oh, you were wonderful, man. Yeah, you really did some homework. This is
I did a little
fantastic.
homework.
Well, Colonel Bruce Hampton had a big hand in putting the Yeti Trio together.
Okay.
Um, and we actually started in the summer of 1998. So we've been around for a while, although we're not always active, and doing too much. So
Gotcha.
the first thing was the name. Well, we first started out, it was just Yeti.
Hmm.
And at the time, it turned out that there were a whole lot of Yetis, like
Okay.
throughout the country, and everybody was like totally different kinds of music.
Right.
But we said, well, we've got to do something. So we kind of copyrighted the Yeti Trio.
Hmm.
And it's funny because some of the festivals we play, they always leave off the. So they
Really.
just call us Yeti
Yeti
Trio.
Trio.
And it sounds so weird to me because it's the Yeti Trio. But we usually just refer to it as Yeti because that's how we started.
Gotcha.
The name came from the keyboard player, Brooke Smith.
Hmm.
His first solo album. It's called Shape or Not Shape. And there's a song on there. And a lyric in the song was called, and the lyrics, this one line said, "The scream of the Yetis were heard on high,"
Okay.
or "The scream of the Yeti was heard on high," something like that.
Right.
And so the guitar player, was digging that and pulled Yeti from it, and we became Yeti, and we were just, hairy Yeti monsters. And
Right.
then
Right.
it turned into the Yeti Trio,
Right.
and we got a little mascot, and that's like our logo of the Yeti Trio guy. Um, and the style of music, when we first began, we were an avant-garde jazz band.
Gotcha.
Everything was improvised. We'd
Mm.
get on stage and we would improvise everything, and it was like really weird music, and it was avant-garde jazz. And then we would like play a Stevie Wonder tune and like be like really straightforward, and everybody would be like, "What is up with these guys?" And then what we would do is we would play these long improvised pieces, and then we would record everything, and we'd each individually listen to something and be like, "Ooh, I really like that thing that happened at
You just
16
pull
minutes and
from it.
11 seconds."
Right.
So
Right.
we would say, "Hey, okay, let's do that." Or we'd say, "Hey, next time we're doing a jam, I'm gonna give like a little guidepost, and then we're gonna go into that thing." And the
Hmm.
guidepost would usually be me like screaming out, trying to like, "Shh, shh, hey, do that thing now." And something silly like that. We'd go and we'd keep like listening back, and then we started like arranging some things,
Hmm.
and we became more of a fusion band,
Okay.
and I always loved fusion, man. When I was a teenager, it became like my favorite style of music, and
Hmm.
that was my dream, was to become like a fusion musician
Gotcha.
because it fused jazz and rock,
Hmm.
but it also included elements of funk and Latin and
Gotcha.
odd meter
Right.
and prog and all these kinds of things. So it was kind of like you're playing all of these different styles at a high level,
Hmm.
and there's still improvisation. So that's what I was aiming for.
Gotcha.
And so we went through a whole time where we were like a fusion group.
Hmm.
We were on hiatus for several years, came back, and at that point, I was into a lot more like orchestrating and arranging and
Hmm.
just composing in general. And we kind of started having a lot of prog elements.
Okay.
So at this point, I kind of call it a proggy fusion group.
Right.
The avant-garde jazz stuff is pretty minimal at this point, and they're usually kind of these kind of epic long works and kind of proggy fusion. But
Okay.
it's all instrumental
Right.
and a lot of odd meter and a lot of long improvised solos and stuff.
So let me ask you a question. When you say odd meter, define that
Mhm.
for me. I've heard it before, but what define that for me? Odd meter.
Oh, sure, sure, sure. So like the most common time signatures are like 4/4, where just like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, or like a
Right.
6/8 kind of thing. Or one,
Mhm.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2,
Right.
3, 4, 5, 6. And some variations on that. Odd meter might be something like instead of in 4/4, you drop an eighth note or you add an eighth note. So it becomes 7/8 or 9/8. So it
Hmm.
feels a little bit shorter or a little bit longer. And you could go further with that instead of eighth notes, doing it with 16th notes. Then you kind of start getting into like Dream Theater or King Crimson or Frank Zappa with like these really weird rhythms where you can't just kind of tap your foot to it anymore. And if you dance, you might have to get a hip replacement after the song's over.
I am so see, and that's what I was thinking it was because listen, I've listened to some music of some artists or some bands, certain things, and they're playing, and then it's like me being that hip hop guy that I like tempo, I like flow. I am big on flow. I am
Right, right.
gigantic on the flow of a song. And they're going, and it's like a bad DJ sometimes playing, where the DJ has everybody dancing. You know,
It's
the
skipping.
DJ's job is to keep the people dancing and keep the flow going. But if you're coming in there and you're playing like some nice jazzy tune and then all of a sudden you throw in the most hard song, just like you say, you know, somebody might have to have a hip replacement or something like that. It's kind of
Right.
crazy. So it's like trying to, oh man, so if I'm writing something, it's like, wow, that just totally changed the whole vibe of what was going on. You know, so those things, like, I just learned a lot when I started listening to certain things and seeing how this was going. You know, I like flow. I don't care if it's the hardest thing coming from the most melodic thing. I just want it to be a smooth transition of beauty.
I hear you, and I do as well. So check this out. I tried to make the odd meter not so odd.
Right.
You know, I try to make it where it's more circular and organic and
Mm-hmm.
has a flow. And you
Right.
also, you kind of always know where one is. And you can't always tell that it's odd meter. Half
Right.
the time I write something, I think it's in 4, and then I go and play it to the metronome, and I'm like, "What's going on?"
Right.
And then I realize it's something. Oh, it's in a different time signature. You know,
Right.
and even think. I'm sure you know the jazz tune "Take 5." Do that, do that, do that, do that,
Yes.
do that, do
Yes.
that, do 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 do. That flows. Well, it's in odd meter. It's in 5.
Really?
That's an odd meter. Yeah, that's why
Take,
it comes from. It's called Take 5 because it's in 5.
I got you. Wow.
Yeah,
And I didn't know that. And that is, let
yeah,
me go ahead and say, one of my favorite songs used to be my when you
there you
would call
go.
me on my phone, that used to come on.
Yeah,
You know,
there
a
we go.
long
Oh,
time
that's
ago on my
wonderful.
phone. Once again, I love music. I would just listen to that song, and you know, my wife and my kids, they would just look at me like, I was like, you guys just don't know the chills I get when I hear this song. It just takes me to another place. It's a
It's
beautiful thing.
beautiful, man. Yeah, it actually comes from an album called Time Out, and it
Mm-hmm.
was a series of Time albums that the band leader Dave Brubeck put out.
Hey,
But he didn't
Brubeck.
actually write that. He didn't write that song though. His right hand man, the alto sax player Paul Desmond, wrote
Really?
that tune. Yeah, and it was in 1959. It was on Columbia Records. Now there are 3 things that don't happen.
Mm-hmm.
Jazz songs don't become #1 hits.
Right.
Odd meter songs don't become #1 hits, and songs with drum solos don't become #1 hits. That tune had all 3, and it was like this big #1 hit.
It's
So
a beautiful.
even if something is odd meter, it can flow and not be disruptive, and it could be a beautiful, you know, melody
Mm-hmm.
and rhythm. And so I kind of live in that world a lot too. The Beatles had a lot of odd meter,
Right.
you know, and I love it. I don't like the name odd meter because,
Mm-hmm.
well, for 2 reasons. First of all, it right off the bat, it's saying this is strange,
It's strange.
this
Right.
is different,
Mm-hmm.
it's odd, it's weird, it's probably complex,
Mm-hmm.
and it you know shouldn't be part of the norm. So
Right.
I don't like it for that reason. The
Got
other thing is, well, 3, my favorite number, is an odd meter, is an
it.
odd number, but it's not an odd meter.
Right.
Amazing Grace is in 3. Happy
Mm.
Birthday is in 3.
Right.
That's, you know, 10 is an even number, but 10/8 is an odd
I
time
mean.
signature. So, you know, you could call things like mixed meter,
Mm-hmm.
um, stuff like that, but it doesn't have to be um, where you can't dance to it or can't
Right.
find a flow or a
Right.
groove. And it opens up a whole world of possibilities,
Gotcha.
and it kind of keeps you on your toes a bit. And you know, and it's nice. It changes up some melodies and things,
Right.
and it's a bit different. It's very expansive. So yeah, the Yeti Trio tend to live a lot in that world, but
Got you.
you know, you get pigeonholed sometimes too. And if I'm playing that or it's my favorite stuff, then people think you're bored playing
Mm-hmm.
other styles of music or you can't do it.
Right.
And it's simply not true. I work in a lot of different branches in the music industry. Otherwise, I
Right.
wouldn't be able to support myself and my family.
100%.
And I'm happy doing all of it,
Yeah,
you
you're a
know?
drummer.
So,
You're a drummer. That's what
yeah.
you are. You're a drummer. You drum. You do that well, you know?
Oh, thank you. I'm trying every
Okay,
day. I'm trying.
okay, so kind of touch on, name some of the bands you have blessed with your drumming.
Oh, well, not many that people have heard of. um, but Should I start with the professional stuff? I came down with Colonel Bruce Hampton.
Right.
After that, I went to there's a local guitar legend named Barry Richmond. He's an electric guitar player,
Okay.
and without exaggeration, one of the greatest to ever live on the planet. It was like getting a master's degree being on stage with him.
What's his name again?
Barry Richmond.
Richmond?
Yeah, Richman.
Richmond. Okay, Barry Richmond.
Yeah, he's unbelievable. And so I toured with him in the Southeast after Colonel Bruce. And then I went out with another guitar player named Gibbs.
Okay.
And at that time, I had moved to Atlanta, but I was on the road for like years straight. I wanted to get off the road. I wanted to play like original music, and I wanted to play jazz, and I wanted to play with people that were my own age, because I was touring with people so much older,
Right.
and kind of established myself in the city. And I ended up playing with this brilliant piano player named Damien Cartier. And we did a couple of studio records, and he was like a 10-piece band and stuff. I played over 1,000 gigs with him.
Wow.
And it just really incredible music. And are you familiar with that guy Puddles the Clown, the super tall, bald-headed clown guy with the great voice? He's on like America's Got Talent and all that stuff. He had a group here called King Sized, and I played drums with him too for years.
I'm wondering if that was the guy that was on Scott Bowling's show, Good Company. I'm not sure if that was him or not. But he just had a guy, I can't remember now because I watched some of it. But go ahead, I'm sorry.
No worries. So I played in his band as well, King Sized. There's a lady named Liz Melendez. She's like a blues rock, great guitar player, kind of a mix between like Stevie Ray Vaughan and Carlos Santana, plus her own stuff. And I played on and off with her for about 13 years, and we're about to kick it up again this year. Just so many bands, because I was just a freelance player. I had my own jazz trio that I co-led with this great guitar player named Derek McCoy. We did that for upwards of a decade.
Wow.
And then, of course, as you know, I toured and recorded with both Fozzy and Stuck Mojo.
Right.
And that also led to some jamming with with Wolf Hoffman from Accept. And I did a couple of records with that, I guess, proggy death metal group called Doth, Daath. They were on Roadrunner.
Yeah.
I recently just did a prog metal record with a New York band called Sunrise Dreamer. Like in the early 90s, they were called Inner Strength. And then we just did a record. It's on Dive Bomb Records. And, of course, the Yeti Trio.
Right.
I'm in a couple of tribute band stuff right now.
Right.
And, just a million other
Your catalog is expansive, yes.
And so many studio recordings as well. And I've been teaching since I was 13.
Wow.
I've got a couple of my own solo records, and always composing and like educational materials and things of that nature. So I know I'm missing a ton of groups and everything, but I think that hits on a few. Hits on a few.
But that's awesome. Okay, so drum instructor at the Atlanta Institute of Music. That's a big title, and I'm sure a big job. Is it more fulfilling teaching or playing on a record?
Oh, that's a fantastic question. So studio or teaching? Man, I love it all. I love the live performance. I've always been a performer. I'm at home on stage. I love being in the classroom. And at AIM, that now it's called the Atlanta Institute of Music and Media. Group classes or one-on-one lessons. I'm very comfortable there. I just love it. And it's very fulfilling. And studio recordings, man, you get to be so creative. And, and as someone who's like a perfectionist by nature, and of course, far from perfect, it's just like the whole creativeness of it. And then having this finished product that's forever. It's just like, there it is. So Um, I love all of them, and they all scratch, itches that
Hmm.
need to be scratched
Right.
in order to be like fulfilled.
Gotcha.
And I know I have musician friends that are like they're just touring folks. They
Hmm.
don't want to play at home locally. They want to be on the road. That's
Right.
awesome. I get it. I know cats that are studio players that want nothing to do
To
with
do
the
with the road.
stage or
Right.
the road. And I did a session. It was like a jazz and Latin session
Hmm.
a couple months ago, and I was talking to the band leader, and we just said something like, "Oh yeah, I've got to teach tomorrow," something, and he was like, "Oh, better you than me." He's like, "Yeah, I can't do the teaching thing at all," and it was like, I get it, I get it. I personally need all three. I need
Got you.
live, I need teaching, and I need studio. And
All of
all
it.
of those have, yeah, all of those have different branches with it
Right.
as well.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah,
It is. And listen, okay, okay, all of them. You just have a
yeah,
passion for it. I
I,
just had
I
a earlier. I
definitely,
talked with my dude Jorg. He's a booking agent in Germany, and so he's booked Stuck Mojo and Volbeat and a lot of other bands. We had a great conversation earlier, just like this conversation is great. Also, man, I'm
oh,
enjoying it.
nice, thank you.
And
Me
so,
too.
and he was just talking about it, just having a passion for what you're doing, you know,
Uh,
and because a lot of things in the music business, a lot of people don't know it's harder work than they think it is. They think it's just that,
oh, yes.
and really you've got to really put some work in, and obviously you have done that. It's so to hear you say that you have a passion for what you're doing. So it's a great thing, man. It's a great
Man,
thing, man.
it is work. It is a job. And there are ups and downs, just like every job. But yeah, as far as and it goes for me, it goes beyond passion. It's also about dedication and loyalty
Right.
um, to my instrument and to who I'm working for and working with. I've been
Awesome.
affiliated with AIM at this point. It's 13 or 14 years. I have a new position with them since COVID, and it's really
Got you.
suited me very very well. We have like an online international school,
Hmm.
and so right now I'm creating content, writing curriculum, and filming it here in my studio. Um,
Amazing.
and then those classes will run, and that's fantastic. And then I've got private students locally and abroad. And right
Hmm.
now with COVID, everything's been video.
Right.
Um, but that part's been fantastic. And doing sessions. Yeah, and getting back out on the stage. So yeah, I need a balance of all of it. There have been different times in my career that it changes. Like it used to be gigging all the time, 200,
Mhm.
250 gigs a year,
Wow.
and teaching would like complement.
Hmm.
Uh, and then there were times where it'd be like a lot of all of it going on. And then things kind of like tip the scales. It would be like a lot of teaching, very
Hmm.
few gigs, and like no studio work.
Right.
Um, and right now I am kind of getting back to a balance of having all three and
Hmm.
having them in the right amounts. Being a family guy now, not
Indeed.
gigging or touring as much, that's
Right.
great. Having the home studio, getting to do that work here on my own, more at my leisure, that's great. And then a lot of teaching, which yeah, I just adore.
Listen, man, I'm telling you, it's awesome, man. This guy right here, Eric Sanders, Mr. Accomplished, is doing work, man. So listen, I
Trying.
always say PO for professional opinion and NPO non-professional opinion. That's why I tell
Okay,
people.
I
I
like it.
always say that this is my NPO. They're like, "Well," I said, "This is my non-professional opinion. It's just my
Okay.
opinion." But okay. So in your PO, as the
Yes, sir.
desire by the youth to play the drums grown, stayed the same, or dwindled? And I asked that question because you're in it and you're
Oh,
teaching a lot. So how is that right now?
what a fantastic question. To be honest, um, so wait, it's grown, dwindled, or stayed the same?
Mm-hmm.
I want to say has grown, but then I started thinking maybe it's kind of stayed the same. It definitely has not dwindled.
Hasn't dwindled. Okay.
Definitely not. I think if anything, it has grown, and I could tell you why.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like YouTube, and I'm not on YouTube much, but you see all of these
Yes.
child prodigies.
Yes.
It's when we're talking 4 or 5 year olds that are like
Right. Right.
that have better timing than I do now, and like all these chops, and I'm like, how do you even reach the pedals? It's unreal. And I taught a lesson, like just one off. I taught a lesson like around the holidays to a 3-year-old boy,
3 years
and
old.
also and another who was a 4-year-old boy. And
Wow.
both of them were playing and singing like at the same
Wow.
time and having a blast. And of course, they each had fantastic parents. But I think now with YouTube and seeing all of the young kids
Mm-hmm.
playing, and the other thing with uh, I don't want to go down this unless you had a question with it, but you see so many people and they do all these drum covers.
Mm-hmm.
They don't play with other musicians. They don't craft their own parts.
Right.
They masterfully play these existing parts,
Mm-hmm.
and they do it in time, and they have incredible like sounds and the technology, and it looks very professional. But there's so much of that out there, and there's so many young people doing that,
Mm-hmm.
that I think it really catches the attention of younger potential
Gotcha.
students who say,
Right.
I want to do that. That looks
Right.
like fun. I think I can do that. So I'm going to go with it's growing.
It's grown. Mm-hmm.
It would be my PO on it. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not personally seeing all of that as far as like my bank account from students, young students knocking down the studio door to, hey, teach me. And a lot of that is because they feel they can be taught on YouTube or
Right.
something, which is kind of a no-no.
Things have changed. Yeah.
You know, or they're just like, learning these drum covers or something.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I don't know that you see it like in the classroom per se.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say that the interest is strong and growing because of how small the world is with
Right.
things like Instagram
Yes.
and YouTube
Yes.
and all the videos and so many talented kids.
Right.
It's unbelievable how
Right.
talented everybody is. It seems like every kid. And when I say kid, let's go from like a big range. I mean, we're old at this point. For like the mid single digits to mid 20s or something.
Gotcha.
It seems like they could all play musical instruments. They could all do incredible artwork. They could
Mm-hmm.
all dance. So I think the creative arts are, for the most part, in very capable and naturally talented hands
That's
and feet.
great. Yeah. Yeah. No, that's great. You said that because you saw where it seemed like a few years ago, so many of the School of Arts were being closed, and they were closing down departments in schools for music and stuff like that, which was always a beautiful thing. In
Yeah,
school
that
where
breaks my heart.
yeah,
Yeah, that breaks my heart, and it's hurting my wallet because I
right,
lost a lot of work from that. I didn't mean
right.
to interrupt. Sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. So
Yeah, that's brutal. That's brutal. I really, if you can, if the school system had the arts there, and you
mhm,
can couple that with what these children are doing at home with their online stuff, and not say one is better than the other, but
right.
you need the balance of this. That would be the best. Arts need to be in the schools.
I'll give you something quick thing before I get to the last question.
Yes, sir.
I have a friend, Anthony Morton. He went to school for music. He has his master's degree in music. And I always call him a genre snob. Now, he likes other music, but he's a jazz guy. So he played the
Yeah.
trombone. His
Uh-huh.
father had this picture with all these great jazz people on it. It's a very famous picture, I believe. And
Yeah.
he's just jazz. He always
Yep.
loved jazz. Wynton Marsalis, Branford Marsalis, he's really Wynton Marsalis. I was like, these kids don't care nothing about Wynton Marsalis, man, just messing with him all the time. But he was just like, I'm trying to tell you, it's like this. So he had a job where he was a band director at a school. And the kids would get upset with him because he was trying to teach them, the classics, the music. And all they wanted to do
Sure.
was play the latest song that was on YouTube, on the radio, whatever like that. It was so frustrating for him. And so it just made me laugh. But that's just what you were saying, how YouTube and all these things have changed stuff so much. They really have.
Yeah. If I could, kind of latch on to that,
Yes, yes.
obviously he's a fantastic musician, and kudos to him for being a band director. It's not easy, and I appreciate him trying to get them the classics and the Marsalis family and all
He
of that
tried.
stuff. I was a jazz snob in school for a while. I had to be. you know, when you're studying a different style of music, and jazz was not like innate for me. I grew up like a rock,
Right.
you know, and now I'm in classical school, so I have to rebel. And my rebellion was jazz.
Got you.
I had to deeply immerse myself in it.
Hmm.
So it was like tunnel vision to like jazz, 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 jazz. And so you know, I studied it deeply, and a good portion of my career was playing mainly jazz and jazz based music for a long
Right.
time.
Right.
Not so much right now, not so much anymore
You just handle your
at the
business
moment. But
though.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And so when I was teaching at the school, you
Hmm.
know, not doing the online content, um, few years back when we had a fuller program,
Hmm.
I was able to teach jazz and funk and Latin.
Hmm.
And there were a lot of students that did not want to learn jazz.
Wow.
And they had to do it for 2 quarters. So I had to make it fun.
Fun for them.
So I created a new course,
Hmm.
and I called it Critical Listening
Hmm.
with a subtitle of Style and Analysis. And so I went through from like big band to jazz to Latin jazz, modern jazz, and all these
Hmm.
things, and other styles of music as well, you know, blues and all kinds of stuff. Um, and I went through, I chose like drummers and songs and artists from different eras, from the
Okay.
early eras to now, so they could
Hmm.
hear like modern drummers playing it and go through all of this and point out certain things to them in little snippets and give them some history and
Right.
make them kind of like learn the names, that it made them kind of care and perk their ear up to it. So when they did come to the class the following quarter for me to actually teach that to them, they were more interested in
Got you.
it. And then so then if they could take some of that stylistic playing and incorporate it into their modern stuff, it's
Hmm.
just going to make them even hipper.
Right.
So yeah, you know, you kind of need all of it, but I totally understand your friend being the genre snob. I've been there. I try to branch out as much as I can, you know, but we all have our limitations and
Right.
everything.
Yeah.
But I can go from jazz to thrash metal, you know, like that, and then be, you know, playing a singer songwriter thing or a pop country gig, or
Right.
you know, or a Latin jazz record.
Method to the madness.
So
I,
it's
I I
fun.
like the way you said you did, because I would tell him, I was like, hey man, you got to change something up, you know, to make them want to, you know, because they're really rebelling right now, getting all their parents to come, you know. So I said, man, you got to change up. So I like what you did. That's love. That's love. That's love. Indeed,
Thank you.
indeed. So last question.
Yeah, man.
I was like, I don't want it to end. Beautiful though. It's been a beautiful time. Last question. Who has the best drum kit? And I'm talking company or artist that you know, band or whatever. Who's the best drummer with the best drum kit? Because some people have 1,000. I mean, it's gigantic. You know, Slipknot guy, his turns upside down. You know,
Oh wow. Yeah, those kits never did too much for me. The big
right?
massive ones.
Uh huh.
Uh, you know, up until recently, like when I play with the Yeti Trio,
Hmm.
which is you know, that's the most challenging and difficult music I've ever had to play in my life on the
Wow.
drum set on a
Okay.
lot of levels.
Mm.
And I did it on a 4-piece kit, just
Hmm.
bass drum, snare drum, one rack tom, one floor tom, and a
Right.
whole ton of cymbals,
Right.
tons of cymbals. Um, so I was very basic for that. I'm happy to have more of a fusion kit now of a 7-piece with 3 up, 2 down, because it gives me more melodies, and I can play the marimba on the drum set.
Marimba again.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, you know, so I can play that there. So, you know, I would say, I mean, a basic fusion kit like that. So I guess I'm going to go with Steve Smith, because he's been my favorite drummer since I'm 15 or 16.
Okay.
Most people would know him because he was the main drummer in Journey.
Journey. Woo.
Um, but he has his own group called Vital Information, who were
Hmm.
like a jazz fusion group.
Okay.
And he basically through the years has had like he'll have the 3 toms up and the 2 floors down, so that's kind of, you know, good for the melody. He'll have
Hmm.
a single kick with a double pedal.
Double
He'll have a
button.
snare drum. He's got some percussion stuff on the side. He's got splash cymbals and crash cymbals and rides and hi-hats and chinas. Um, so you know, he and Greg Bissonette,
Hmm.
um, their drum kits. I think I'll go with Greg Bissonette as well in there,
Okay.
because he had a lot of sounds like the trash hats that were very, very, very influential on me. And they had that kind of basic fusion drum set. So
Mm-hmm.
it's not too small. It's certainly not one of those extravagant,
Right.
huge things that spins around and
Right.
has
Right.
electronics and
Right.
and things hanging from the sky and all of that. Like that's too much. Like I said, man, I have a bad shoulder. I can't reach a lot of things on a big drum set. But so I like having the with cowbells or jam blocks, so a little percussion mixed in there, a double pedal, small slash cymbals, regular crash cymbals, jazzy rides, chinas. So I would think just like a basic fusion drum set, like a Greg Bissonette or Steve Smith,
Okay.
is good for me. So I know that's not a very exciting answer,
That's all I love. It's
but
your answer. That's what makes
yeah.
it exciting. That's what the honest truth is the best thing to me. As I say, 3 T's. Tell the truth.
Oh, I love it. See, and you said tease, and I start thinking things like time, taste, tone, stuff like that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, listen, Eric, it's been truly my pleasure, man. And I thank you for taking the time out, man, to be here, to talk shop with me and educate some people, because I think that's what's going to happen, man. Talking mostly about music, educating people on what goes on, because I really have so much more respect for you guys after being there and being on stage and seeing what it takes to do what you do. It takes practice, it takes dedication, and it shows in the things that you do. So I just want to say that I appreciate you as being a musician, and I appreciate you also for being here, man. So thank you very, very much.
Oh
Very,
man.
very much.
Thank you so much, and maximum respect to you, and always, and man, I thought there was going to be a lot of the Fozzy Mojo stuff because I drummed with them for a while. So since we didn't cover that, I do just want to say that it's an honor to be on a record with you, and in fact, kind of 2 albums,
Yeah.
because I played drums on all the Southern Born Killers. But I believe there are 2, maybe 3 songs that I'm on the next record.
Great Revival.
I wish I had that. I really want it, but I'm on a couple of tracks on there too. So it's an honor to be on those albums with you. And I wish we got to do it on stage together
Yeah, it would have been
on the road. The
right,
timing
right.
was right off. But I'm really, really happy to be on that record with you, man.
I'll tell
very
you
cool.
what. I'm sorry for cutting you off. I want to say
No.
that Southern Born Killers, and I love both albums greatly. Anything I put out, I love it. I don't care if the world likes it or not. I love it. But that Southern Born Killers album, you did a magnificent job. The flow, the vibe, is all beautiful, man.
Thank you so much, man.
Great job.
Hey, and all of that comes from my very good and old friend Mike Martin. He's just so incredible on the stage and off the stage, and ended up there through him,
right.
And that's how we ended up here.
3M, Magical Mike Martin. That's my dude,
yeah,
man.
There you go.
I miss him so much. I miss him. That's my guy. That's my guy. No
Me
doubt.
too.
No doubt.
The penultimate gig I played before quarantine hit was a solo Mike Martin gig, one of his personal gigs with a trio.
Right.
That was early March of 2020, and then I did like a jazz trio in Auburn like a couple of weeks later, and then everything got shut down.
Right.
So yeah, we're coming up on 2 years since I've seen him. Of course, we've in person we're playing.
Yes, right.
But I miss him, and I've got some ideas of some stuff that I want to run past him.
Indeed.
But man, this has been incredible. A real pleasure and honor. I appreciate it so much. Thank you for thinking of me, and thanks for working with me on my schedule and lack of technological.
No, we both are just working at it, getting better at it. It's all love. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is Live and Loud with the Lord Nelson. That is, with an amazing guest, Mr. Eric Sanders. And one more thing, would you like to plug anything? Would you like to plug AIM? Would you like to plug your? Let people know. Whatever you need. If they need lessons or whatever, just let it be known.
All right, well, yeah, I'm available. I'm here in Atlanta, but I'm available for video lessons every week, and I'm super flexible with scheduling. It could be a one-off; doesn't have to be signing up for all the time. On my Facebook page and Instagram, I put up a short, fun drum video every single week. On
Right.
Facebook, it's every Monday. It's called
Mhm.
Drum Mondays,
Mhm.
and I'm going to be out playing with an Allman Brothers tribute band
Really?
called Brother and Sister. And that brother and sister tandem, their father was the original drummer in the Allman Brothers.
Really?
Um, yeah, so we're taking their dad's music and going out there and keeping it alive. But yeah, drum lessons, Drum Monday on Facebook, and brother and sister.
Well, let me say this last thing about the Allman Brothers.
Yeah,
Jessica and Midnight Rider.
yeah,
I play those two songs so much. It's in my playlist of songs that I play. I travel somewhere or what, I may just be sitting in the house or something. There's something, man, just does something to me. I'm just telling you, man, it's just beautiful. Those two songs are
yeah,
so beautiful to me. And a friend I have on Facebook, she said her last name's Alma. She said she's related to them. But anyway, we've talked
yeah, yeah,
about it.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
So
that's fantastic! I got the chills when you said it. Both of those songs are in our set list. Um, so yeah, we'll be playing them.
great, yeah, amazing, amazing. All right, once again, man, I appreciate you. Thank you very much.